prices of used cars expected to drop this year. This according to a new report from Cox Automotive. Experts explain that more cars are becoming available as supply chain issues ease.
That is just a smidge under the all-time high, but auto prices in July compared to July of last year.
The car market has burst, and it's worse than we anticipated. What we're seeing right now isn't just a correction or a dip. This is the complete collapse of the automotive industry as we know it. Right now, while you're watching this video, over 4.2 million vehicles are sitting unsold on dealer lots across America. Not for days or weeks. We're talking 180 plus days of nobody even looking at them. Dealerships are bleeding $47 per day per vehicle in interest costs, and some are quietly preparing bankruptcy paperwork. But here's what nobody saw coming. It's not just overpriced trucks and luxury cars that aren't selling. Even basic economy cars that used to fly off lots are sitting like paperweights. A Honda Civic that would have sold in 24 hours 2 years ago is now collecting dust for 6 months. Meet Sarah, a car dealer in Ohio who thought she'd seen everything in 20 years of selling cars. Last week, she told me something that made my blood run cold. I've got $3.2 million in inventory that nobody wants. My floor plan interest is $4,800 per day. I'm not selling cars anymore. I'm managing a financial disaster that gets worse every morning I unlock the doors. But Sarah's nightmare is just the beginning. Because hidden beneath this inventory crisis is a darker truth that's about to destroy not just dealers, but millions of car owners who have no idea what's coming for them. The question isn't whether the car market will recover. It's whether you'll still have a financial future when the real devastation hits. And what we discovered about who's really behind this collapse will shock you. Right now, across America, there are more unsold cars sitting on dealer lots than at any point in modern history. And the numbers are so catastrophic that industry insiders are calling it the Great Automotive Reset. We're not talking about a few extra cars here and there. We're talking about 4.2 million vehicles, enough cars to fill every parking space in Manhattan 47 times over. These aren't just sitting for a few weeks. The average days on lot has exploded to 127 days, with some vehicles approaching 300 days without a single serious buyer. Every single day, dealers are hemorrhaging money on floor plan interest. Here's the brutal math. A $35,000 vehicle costs dealers approximately $47 daily in interest charges. Multiply that by millions of vehicles, and you're looking at over $200 million bleeding from dealer bank accounts every single day. A Ford dealer in Texas told me yesterday his nightmare story. I've got 247 vehicles on my lot right now. My daily floor plan interest is $11,639. That's $347,000 per month just to store cars nobody wants. I haven't made a profit in 8 months, and my credit line is maxed out. But it gets worse. Dealers are so desperate they're offering incentives that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. We're seeing $15,000 off MSRP, 0% financing for 84 months, and lease deals that lose money on every transaction. And customers are still walking away. The inventory crisis isn't just hurting dealers. It's creating a cascade of failures throughout the entire automotive ecosystem. Auto transport companies are going bankrupt because there's no inventory to move. Detail shops are closing because cars aren't selling fast enough to need prep work. Even car washes are reporting 30% drops in revenue. An auto auction manager in California told me this week, "We used to move 2,000 vehicles per week through our facility. Last week we moved 340. Dealers aren't buying because they can't sell what they already have. The entire wholesale market has frozen solid. Manufacturing plants are shutting down production lines. GM just announced temporary closures at 6 facilities. Ford is cutting shifts at 4 plants. Stellantis is offering buyouts to 33,000 workers. The industry is contracting faster than anyone anticipated. But here's what's really shocking. It's not just economy cars sitting unsold. Luxury vehicles that used to have waiting lists are now collecting dust for months. A Mercedes dealer in Florida told me yesterday, "I've got a $180,000 AMG that's been here 247 days. My interest cost on that one vehicle is now $11,639. I'm literally paying more to store it than some people make in a year." BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Lexus, brands that never offered significant discounts, are now practically giving cars away. We're seeing $25,000 off luxury SUVs, lease deals that make no financial sense, and certified pre-owned programs that are losing money on every transaction. The psychological impact is devastating. When luxury brands start acting desperate, it signals to consumers that something is fundamentally broken. And consumers are responding by not buying anything at all. As dealers struggle with inventory costs, they're defaulting on floor plan loans. We're starting to see the first wave of dealer bankruptcies, and it's creating a secondary crisis. Repo lots filled with brand new vehicles that banks are trying to liquidate. A bankruptcy attorney specializing in automotive cases told me this morning, "I've got 23 dealer bankruptcy cases on my desk right now. These aren't small mom-and-pop stores. These are major franchises with decades of history. The floor plan interest killed them faster than they could adapt. When dealers go bankrupt, their inventory gets repossessed by floor plan lenders. Those vehicles then flood the wholesale market at fire sale prices, further depressing values and making it even harder for surviving dealers to move their inventory. 4.2 million vehicles sitting unsold. $200 million bleeding daily, dealers going bankrupt. Manufacturing plants shutting down. But this inventory apocalypse is just the symptom. The real disease is something far more sinister, and it's about to get much worse. While dealers are drowning in unsold inventory, something even more catastrophic is happening. Vehicle values are collapsing so fast that millions of car owners are about to discover they owe more on their loans than their cars will ever be worth again. This isn't a gradual decline. This is a financial avalanche that's burying car owners under mountains of negative equity they never saw coming. Used car values have dropped 23% in the last 18 months, but that's just the beginning. Wholesale auction prices, what dealers actually pay for used cars, have cratered by 35%. A 2021 Silverado that sold for $45,000 at auction last year is now bringing $29,000. That's $16,000 in value that simply vanished. But here's the terrifying part. Retail prices haven't caught up to wholesale reality yet. Dealers are still trying to sell that same Silverado for $38,000 while knowing they can only get $29,000 for it at auction. The gap between retail asking prices and actual market value is creating a fantasy economy that's about to crash into reality. A wholesale auction manager in Georgia told me yesterday, "We're seeing no sales on 60% of the vehicles that come through our lanes. Dealers are setting reserves based on last year's values, but buyers are bidding based on today's reality. The disconnect is massive, and it's getting worse every week." Here's where it gets personal. Millions of Americans are about to discover they're financially underwater on their car loans. A customer who bought a 2022 F-150 for $65,000 with $5,000 down now owes approximately $55,000 on their loan. But that same truck is worth maybe $38,000 in today's market. That's $17,000 in negative equity that appeared seemingly overnight. Jennifer from Arizona learned this lesson the hard way. "I tried to trade my 2021 Tahoe last month. I owed $52,000 on the loan. The dealer offered me $34,000 for trade-in. I'm stuck with an $18,000 loss if I want to get out of this truck. I feel like I've been financially mugged. The situation is so bad that some lenders are quietly extending loan terms to keep monthly payments manageable, even though it means customers will be underwater for years longer. We're seeing 96-month auto loans becoming common. That's 8 years of payments on a depreciating asset. Lease returns are creating another crisis. When lease terms end, customers have the option to buy their vehicle for a predetermined residual value. But when that residual value is higher than actual market value, customers simply walk away, leaving leasing companies holding worthless assets. A leasing company executive told me this week, "We're getting back vehicles worth $15,000 less than our residual values. Every lease return is a massive loss. We're not in the car business anymore. We're in the loss management business." These returned lease vehicles then flood the used car market, further depressing values and creating even more negative equity for existing owners. It's a vicious cycle that feeds on itself. Dealers are using the value collapse to their advantage in the cruelest way possible. They're offering trade-in values so low that customers can't afford to trade, then using that captive audience to push expensive financing on overpriced inventory. A sales manager in Michigan told me yesterday, "Customer comes in owing $45,000 on their truck. We appraise it at $28,000. They can't afford the $17,000 negative equity, so they're stuck. Then we sell them extended warranties and maintenance packages because they know they're keeping that truck forever. It's financial entrapment disguised as customer service. Dealers are profiting from the value collapse by keeping customers locked into vehicles they can't afford to replace. The value collapse isn't just affecting car owners, it's destroying the entire used car ecosystem. Independent dealers can't make money when wholesale costs are unpredictable. Buy here, pay here lots are going bankrupt because their collateral is worth less than the loans. Even rental car companies are taking massive losses on fleet disposal. An independent dealer in Florida told me this morning, "I bought a 2020 Camry at auction for $22,000 3 months ago. Today, I can't get $18,000 for it retail. I'm losing money on every car I touch. This business model is broken, values collapsing, negative equity exploding, customers trapped, dealers bleeding. But the price collapse is just setting the stage for the real catastrophe, and it's about to hit the people who can least afford it." While everyone's focused on inventory and pricing, the real bomb about to explode is in automotive lending. The credit crisis brewing beneath the surface will make the 2008 financial meltdown look like a practice round. We're not just talking about a few bad loans here and there. We're talking about a systemic collapse of automotive credit that will lock millions of Americans out of car ownership permanently. Auto loan approval rates have plummeted from 85% pre-pandemic to just 62% today. But that's not the scary part. The scary part is what's happening to the loans that are getting approved. Average interest rates have exploded from 4.2% to 9.8% for prime borrowers, and subprime borrowers are seeing rates as high as 24.9%. A finance manager at a major dealership told me yesterday, "I'm seeing customers with 720 credit scores getting quoted 12% interest rates. 2 years ago, those same customers would have qualified for 2.9%. The lending market has completely frozen up." But here's the kicker. Even customers willing to pay these outrageous rates are getting rejected. Lenders are so spooked by the value collapse that they're rejecting loans on vehicles that might be worth less than the loan balance before the first payment is made. Repossession rates have increased 47% in the last 12 months, and that's before the real pain hits. When customers realize their vehicles are worth $15,000 less than they owe, many are simply walking away from their loans. Why make payments on a $50,000 loan for a truck worth $35,000? A repo company owner in Texas told me this week, "We're picking up 40% more vehicles than last year, and they're newer, more expensive vehicles. People are abandoning 2021 and 2022 cars because the negative equity is so massive. I've never seen anything like it. The repos are creating a secondary flood of inventory. Banks are dumping repossessed vehicles at wholesale auctions for whatever they can get, further depressing values and creating more negative equity for remaining borrowers." Subprime auto lending, loans to customers with poor credit, is experiencing a complete meltdown. Default rates on subprime auto loans have hit 11.2%, the highest level since 2009. But unlike 2009, there's no government bailout coming for auto lenders. A subprime lender executive told me yesterday, "We're not making new loans." Period. The combination of high default rates and collapsing values means every loan we make loses money. We're in survival mode, trying to collect on existing loans before they all go bad. When subprime lending disappears, it locks millions of Americans out of car ownership. These are often the people who need reliable transportation the most. Workers who can't afford to lose their jobs because they can't get to work. Dealers make significant money on financing, often more than they make selling the actual cars. But as lending tightens and customers get rejected, dealers are losing their most profitable revenue stream. A dealer principal in California told me this morning, "Financing used to be 40% of our gross profit. Now it's maybe 15%. We can't get customers approved, and when we do, the rates are so high they walk away. We're not just losing car sales, we're losing our most profitable business." Some dealers are trying to become lenders themselves, offering in-house financing to customers who can't get bank loans. But this is incredibly risky. Dealers don't have the expertise or capital reserves to handle loan defaults on a large scale. As vehicle values collapse, insurance companies are facing their own crisis. When a financed vehicle is totaled, insurance pays actual cash value, but that's often thousands less than the loan balance. The gap insurance market is exploding as customers realize they need protection against negative equity. An insurance adjuster told me yesterday, "I'm seeing total loss claims where the vehicle is worth $25,000, but the customer owes $40,000. Without gap coverage, they're stuck with a $15,000 bill for a car they can't even drive. It's financially devastating." As more customers default on auto loans, credit scores are plummeting across the board. A credit counselor told me this week, "I'm seeing clients whose credit scores have dropped 150 points because of auto loan defaults. These aren't irresponsible people. These are working families who got trapped by negative equity and impossible payment terms. Lending frozen, repos exploding, credit scores destroyed, dealers losing their most profitable business. But all of this is just the setup for the final catastrophe, the one that will reshape American transportation forever. While dealers drown in unsold inventory and customers flee from impossible financing, the automotive manufacturers are facing their own existential crisis. Production lines are shutting down, workers are being laid off, and some of America's most iconic car companies are quietly preparing for bankruptcy. This isn't just about cutting back production. This is about the complete restructuring of an industry that employs 10 million Americans and supports entire communities across the Midwest. General Motors just announced the closure of 6 manufacturing facilities and the layoff of 18,000 workers. Ford is cutting production at 8 plants and offering buyouts to 25,000 employees. Stellantis is shutting down the Belvidere assembly plant indefinitely, putting 1,200 workers on the street. But here's what the press releases don't tell you. These aren't temporary shutdowns. These are permanent capacity reductions because manufacturers finally realize they've been building cars for a market that no longer exists. A GM plant manager in Michigan told me yesterday, "We built 2,400 trucks last month. Dealers ordered 800. We're literally manufacturing vehicles that nobody wants, storing them in overflow lots, and paying interest on inventory that may never sell. The math doesn't work anymore." The overflow lots are a sight to behold. Thousands of brand new vehicles sitting in fields, slowly deteriorating, while manufacturers pay storage costs and insurance. Some vehicles have been sitting so long that they need a reconditioning before they can be sold. The manufacturing shutdown is creating a cascade of failures throughout the supplier network. Companies that make everything from seat cushions to electronic modules are going bankrupt as orders evaporate. A Tier 1 supplier executive told me this week, "We just laid off 40% of our workforce. Our biggest customer cut orders by 60% with 2 weeks' notice. We're not just losing money, we're burning through cash reserves trying to stay alive until orders come back. But what if they don't come back? When suppliers fail, it creates shortages that shut down entire production lines. A single missing component can stop the manufacture of thousands of vehicles. The just-in-time manufacturing system that made the industry efficient is now making it incredibly fragile." Manufacturers bet billions on electric vehicles, building massive production capacity for a market that hasn't materialized. Ford lost $4.7 billion on EVs last year. GM's Ultium platform is producing vehicles that sit unsold for months. Even Tesla is cutting prices, desperately trying to move inventory. A Ford executive told me this week, "We built Lightning production capacity for 150,000 units annually. We're selling maybe 40,000. The infrastructure isn't there, the demand isn't there, but we've already spent the money building factories." The EV push was supposed to be the industry's salvation. Instead, it's accelerating the collapse by diverting resources from profitable gas vehicles to money-losing electric ones. While American manufacturers struggle, foreign competitors are gaining market share by offering simpler, more reliable vehicles at lower prices. Hyundai, Kia, and even Chinese manufacturers are positioning themselves to fill the void left by struggling American companies. An automotive analyst told me yesterday, American manufacturers focused on high-margin luxury trucks and SUVs while ignoring the affordable car market. Now they're stuck with expensive inventory nobody wants, while foreign competitors dominate the segments people can actually afford. The irony is devastating. American manufacturers abandoned affordable cars to chase profits, and now they're losing money on expensive vehicles, while foreign companies profit from the segments they abandoned. Industry insiders are quietly preparing for the possibility that one or more major manufacturers might not survive this crisis. Bankruptcy attorneys specializing in automotive cases report a surge in consultations from companies exploring their options. A restructuring consultant told me this morning, "The conversations have shifted from how do we get through this rough patch to how do we survive if this becomes the new normal." Some companies are looking at Chapter 11 as their only option to shed legacy costs and right-size their operations. Plants closing, workers laid off, suppliers failing, unions powerless, even the manufacturers are preparing for bankruptcy. But the manufacturing meltdown is just one piece of a larger puzzle, and the final piece is about to destroy everything we thought we knew about car ownership. While the industry focuses on inventory and financing, they're missing the most fundamental shift of all. An entire generation of Americans has decided they don't want to own cars anymore. And this isn't temporary, it's permanent. This isn't just about young people delaying car purchases. This is about a complete rejection of car ownership as a lifestyle choice, and it's happening faster than anyone anticipated. Younger generations are prioritizing experiences over possessions, and cars represent the ultimate depreciating possession. They'd rather spend money on travel, dining, entertainment, and education than car payments. A financial advisor specializing in young professionals told me this morning, my clients under 30 consistently rank car ownership as their lowest financial priority. They'd rather put that $700 monthly payment towards student loans, retirement savings, or a house down payment. Cars are seen as a necessary evil, not a desirable purchase. An entire generation rejecting car ownership, cities discouraging cars, remote work eliminating commutes, subscription services replacing ownership, environmental concerns driving behavior change. The automotive industry built their business model on assumptions that no longer exist. All of these forces, inventory crisis, price collapse, credit freeze, manufacturing meltdown, and generational shift, are converging into the perfect storm that will reshape American transportation forever. And what emerges from this collapse will look nothing like the automotive industry we've known for the past century. This isn't just a recession or a market correction. This is the end of the automotive industry as we know it, and the beginning of something entirely different. Within the next 18 months, industry analysts predict that 30 to 40% of car dealerships will close permanently. These aren't just small rural dealers. Major metropolitan franchises with decades of history are preparing to shut down. A dealer association executive told me yesterday, "We're seeing 15 to 20 dealer closures per week nationally. These are profitable businesses that survived 2008, but they can't survive this combination of unsold inventory, impossible financing, and disappearing customers." The franchise system is collapsing in real time. The surviving dealers will look completely different. Instead of massive lots filled with hundreds of vehicles, we'll see smaller showrooms focused on custom orders and service. The days of walking onto a lot and driving away with a car the same day are ending. If you currently own a car, understand that its value will continue declining rapidly. If you're thinking about buying a car, wait. Prices will drop much further as the crisis deepens. If you don't want to get caught in this automotive apocalypse, make sure you subscribe so you're always up to date with the latest market developments and survival strategies. The landscape is changing daily, and knowledge is your only protection. Consider alternatives to car ownership now, before you're forced into them later. Explore public transit, ride-sharing, bike-sharing, and remote work options. The early adopters of post-car transportation will have significant advantages over those who wait. The automotive industry spent a century convincing Americans that car ownership was essential to the American dream. But what happens when that dream becomes a financial nightmare that most people can't afford and don't want? We're about to find out. And the answer will reshape not just how we get around, but how we live, work, and build our communities for the next century. The car market didn't just burst, it exploded. And from the wreckage, a completely different transportation future is emerging. The only question is, will you be ready for what comes next?